Have you ever wondered why the vast majority of people are drowning in sadness, yet a rare few choose to endure immense suffering and actually find ultimate freedom? We often think suffering and sadness are the exact same thing. But what if I told you they are completely different journeys? Sadness is the endless ocean we are forced into. The daily worries of wealth, family, and survival that chain us down, lifetime after lifetime. But suffering? Suffering is a fire you walk into willingly. Imagine a king who abandons a golden palace and endless riches, choosing to beg in the streets just to dissolve his ego. Or a seeker who gives away his very last piece of clothing to walk entirely naked toward the divine. Now, imagine the exact opposite. A dedicated disciple in a forest who simply gets a pet cat to chase away mice. The cat needs milk, so he gets a cow. The cow needs care, so he gets a wife. Before he knows it, his ultimate spiritual quest is entirely forgotten, buried under a mountain of everyday sadness. Even Socrates warned that the choices we make, like who we choose to marry, can either completely shatter our worldly attachments or trap us forever. So, which path are you currently on? Are you roving in endless circles in the ocean of sadness, or are you ready to embrace the fire of suffering to finally reach the divine? Let's uncover the secret.
The title of today's satsang is The Secret of Suffering and Sadness in Life. To many individuals, and I would say to 99% of people, suffering and sadness seem like the exact same thing. Even if you try to look them up in a dictionary, you will not see any difference. Kasht will be called suffering, and you already understand dukh as sadness. But from a spiritual perspective, suffering and sadness are two completely different states. If you understand this deeply, you will see a total difference between them. Both suffering and sadness are journeys of life, and they both lead to the exact same point. However, suffering brings you to that destined point in a very short time, whereas sadness takes a lot of time, and sometimes it can even take many lifetimes. Therefore, do not consider suffering and sadness to be the same. Their paths are different, but eventually, they circle back and meet at the same place. Sadness takes the long route to get there, while suffering arrives in just a short amount of time. You all already understand sadness, as everyone in the world experiences it. Some have physical sadness, while others have mental sadness. Some face sadness related to their family, while others face financial sadness. Some experience social sadness. There is simply no end to sadness. But suffering is experienced by very few individuals. The person who truly experiences suffering does not even comprehend ordinary sadness anymore. He has risen far above it. There is only one suffering in his life, for which he becomes restless, tears flow from his eyes, and he puts in great effort. And yet, there are many occasions when he simply cannot find the way. There is no one to show him the path either. He has to walk through the darkness on his own. Suffering is that state, or rather the pain, that a person goes through in the quest to attain God. Such a person has only one suffering in life. How can I find the divine? How can I experience the realization of God? He does not worry about wealth, society, or his relationships. There is only one goal before him in life: how to unite with the Lord. In this pursuit, he endures hardships, and he bears all these trials without any resistance because he has chosen this path himself. No one has forced him onto it. You could say it is his inner mind or his soul that is inspiring him to walk this journey. Such individuals are very rare in this world. The prominent names of those who walked their path while bearing this kind of suffering primarily include Mahatma Buddha, Mahavira, Yogananda, and Vivekananda. From their childhood itself, they tried to adopt this very way of life, seeking the realization of God by any means possible. If we look at the life of Buddha, he was the son of a king. He had no shortage of worldly comforts. He had wealth, abundance, a beautiful wife, and a child. Yet, living amidst all of this, he felt as if he were sitting in a fire. To attain the divine, he renounced all his luxuries and set out on the quest for God. He never looked back at the grandeur he had left behind. He lived in forests and sustained his life by begging for alms. He even begged for food at the very houses to which he had once given so much wealth, as they were part of his own kingdom. He had completely let go of his ego. When you step out to beg for alms, your ego is reduced to zero. To beg for food from the very people he once ruled over is a profound example of completely dissolving the ego. He went to a guru, and within a very short time, he mastered everything the guru taught him. The guru was astonished, wondering what kind of person he was. The guru thought, "It took me many years to achieve this, yet he has done it in just a matter of days." Eventually, the guru had to admit, "I cannot teach you anything beyond this." He then went to a second guru, and in a very short time, he learned everything that guru knew as well. That guru also told him, "I cannot teach you anything more than this." He went to a third guru, but faced disappointment there too. Finally, he realized that if he truly wanted to attain the divine, he would have to search for him within himself, walking through the darkness on his own. He then sought the divine by himself, and within a mere 6 years, he attained God. He achieved supreme wisdom. While it usually takes many lifetimes and hundreds of years to attain such profound knowledge, he achieved it through his immense dedication and intense longing. We cannot even begin to imagine the hardships he faced while walking this path, because he was the son of a king. An ordinary person might still be able to endure hardships, but if a king's son goes through such suffering, you can understand what a tremendous sacrifice that is. He bore all these hardships joyfully. He chose this difficult path of suffering all by himself. He renounced all his worldly grandeur and attained the divine in merely 6 years. To put it in perspective, in 6 years, we cannot even become a doctor or an engineer. Yet, in just 6 years, look at the supreme state of realization he achieved. This means he considered every hardship as a flower and accepted it as gracefully as a flower. That is why it is said that a person chooses the path of suffering entirely on his own. When he makes this choice himself, he does not back down no matter what obstacles come his way. For instance, if someone wants to climb Mount Everest, no one forced him saying, "Go on, Brother Tenzing, you must climb Everest." He climbed it of his own free will. Therefore, a difficult journey must be driven purely by inner inspiration. By undertaking a difficult journey and embracing the suffering, a spiritual journey that would typically take many lifetimes is completed in just a few years. Similarly, Mahavira also attained the divine in just 10 to 12 years. Vivekananda and Yogananda took about the same amount of time. They too chose this path, the path of suffering, driven by their own inner inspiration. On the other hand, we choose the worldly path and still desire to attain God. That approach will naturally take many lifetimes, and that is exactly what is happening with us. Mahavira wanted to leave home and renounce the world during his youth, but his mother said to him, "I cannot grant you permission for this." He honored his mother's words and stayed back. After his mother passed away, he went to his elder brother and asked, "Please give me your permission so that I may set out on my quest, the quest to find the divine." His brother became quite upset with him. Following this, Mahavira began living in the house with such complete detachment that it was as if he were not living there at all. He did not want to embark on his spiritual path by causing sorrow or pain to anyone. After some time, his brother finally realized this and said, "Even while living in this house, you are as good as not being here. So, you may happily go wherever you wish." At that very moment, Mahavira set out, taking just a single piece of cloth with him. Along the way, he met a beggar who asked for some clothes, so Mahavira immediately gave half of his cloth to him. He then continued his journey. Later on, his remaining piece of cloth got caught in a bush and tore. He simply left it right there and walked ahead entirely naked. From that day forward, he remained without clothes for the rest of his life, caring neither for food nor for his physical survival. This is a difficult path. It is the path of suffering, not the path of sadness. Sadness is usually something that is given by others or forced upon us, but a person seeks out suffering entirely on their own so that they can achieve their ultimate goal in life. By walking on the path of suffering, one attains in a very short time what would otherwise take many lifetimes to achieve on the path of sadness. If we look at the path of sadness, while living in this world, everyone is unhappy. Some are sad about their health, some are sad about their family, some are sad about their business, some are sad about their children. We are all sorrowful and constantly seek a way out of it. We do not want to endure this sadness, yet deep down, we wish for our sorrows to simply end and for us to somehow attain God. Now, think about it yourself. Look at the vast difference between chosen suffering and worldly sadness. Those great spiritual seekers joyfully accepted and wore the garland of suffering. On the other hand, the sadness we experience comes strictly as a result of our own past actions, yet we are unable to even accept it gracefully. If we cannot even accept the sadness brought about by our own deeds, how can we possibly expect to attain the divine? In this context, let me tell you a short story. A guru had a few disciples, and he spent his entire life teaching them everything he knew. When he was on his deathbed and his time to depart had come, the disciples approached him and said, "Please give us some final guidance so that we may continue our journey to reach the divine even without you." Note: this story carries a very profound meaning. Do not just listen to it as a simple tale, but absorb it as a deep spiritual lesson. The Guru replied, "Live however you wish to live, but never keep a pet cat." The disciples could not understand why, on his deathbed, he was instructing them not to keep a cat and to just endure whatever comes. They laughed to themselves, assuming that the Guru had lost his senses due to old age and his final state of departing from the world. However, they all remained silent and peacefully accepted his words. After that, they simply went on living their lives. Now, one of the disciples was living in a hut in the forest, engaged in the spiritual practices his guru had taught him. However, he had completely forgotten his guru's final instruction never to keep a pet cat. He began facing a daily trouble. The mice would nibble and tear the clothes he hung outside to dry. This worried him greatly. Once the mice ruined his clothes, how could he wear them? And he could not remain naked either. When he became extremely frustrated, some people advised him, "Brother, just get a cat, it will drive the mice away." He had forgotten his guru's words. Since a few years had passed, it had completely slipped his mind. So, he kept a cat. The cat got rid of the mice, and his clothes were safe again. But soon, a new problem arose. The cat needed milk every day, whereas he himself managed to get milk with great difficulty. To solve this issue, as suggested by a few people, he brought in a cow. Now that he had a cow, he started running short on time. When was he supposed to do his spiritual practices? He had to fetch grass for the cow and look after it. Only then could the cat get its milk, and he could sustain himself too. So, the story continued like this. Upon the advice of other people, he eventually got married. Now, things seemed easier. his meals were taken care of, the cow was being looked after, and the daily trouble of feeding the cat was resolved. After getting married, he had children, and soon he had a full family. Naturally, when a person builds a family and takes on worldly responsibilities, they slowly drift away from their spiritual practice. The exact same thing happened to him. Because of this, a chain of worldly troubles began. One sadness led to another, then a third sorrow followed. When you live a family life, worldly problems are bound to arise. The situation became such that he entirely lost touch with his spiritual practice and spent all his time merely looking for solutions to his everyday sorrows. Now, if a person whose true purpose in life was to attain the divine gets trapped in this web of worldly entanglements, he naturally forgets about God. Having forgotten his ultimate goal, he became completely absorbed in the material world and stepped off the spiritual path entirely. The underlying message is this: when a hardship comes into our lives, just like the hardship of my steering his clothes, had he simply endured it, he would have easily continued on his original spiritual path. But he disregarded his guru's teachings, kept a cat, and as a result, an entire worldly life was built around him. If he had only endured that small hardship right at the beginning, he could have reached the divine, just like Buddha and Mahavira. But since he created a whole worldly trap for himself, how could he possibly reach his goal? The core lesson is that whatever hardships or sorrows the divine sends our way, we should endure them joyfully. If you do not endure them, your worldly entanglements will keep building and multiplying, one after another. As your worldly life expands, you will drift further and further away from God. In this story, the disciple not only ignored his guru's guidance but also started accumulating things merely for his own comfort. One thing led to another, and eventually, it turned into a massive web of worldly attachments. Therefore, if you truly wish to walk on the path of the divine, it is not wise to expand your worldly attachments. You must learn to find joy in enduring whatever hardships come your way. Only then can a person successfully walk the path of God, otherwise, the journey becomes incredibly difficult. When you take a step forward in the journey of life, that very first step is entirely in your control, whether you choose to step with your right foot or your left. But once you have lifted that foot and placed it down, you are naturally bound to take the next step. Similarly, your worldly life unfolds according to what you primarily desired or chose first, and that choice simply keeps multiplying. If that first step is taken in the wrong direction, it will inevitably be followed by a series of wrong steps, one after another. The spiritual insight, therefore, before undertaking any action, deep self-introspection is essential. Only then can you save yourself from future sorrows. Otherwise, your worldly entanglements will keep expanding, and your sorrows will multiply right along with them. There is a similar incident from the life of Socrates. A young man once came to him and said, "I am unable to decide whether I should get married or not." Socrates replied, "This is entirely your personal decision. If you wish to marry, then do it. If you can live alone peacefully, then there is absolutely no need to." But the young man insisted, "I simply cannot make a choice, and I find myself completely stuck in the middle." Then Socrates said to him, "If you do get married, it is very difficult to say what kind of wife you will get. You might find a good companion whose thoughts perfectly align with yours, or you might find someone who constantly argues with you. You have absolutely no control over this. If you happen to get a wife who constantly fights with you, that is actually a good thing. You will become a renunciate very quickly. This is because you will develop no attachment to family life. You will live with her, yet your presence will be as if you are not living there at all. However, your worldly life will still have been established. On the other hand, if you marry the kind of woman whose thoughts perfectly match your own, you will become deeply attached to her, and your worldly entanglements will only keep expanding. Now, the decision is entirely yours. If you truly wish to go toward the divine, you must make a firm decision right here. Whether you choose to step to the right or to the left, your worldly life is bound to expand. You will get entangled in the material world, and walking on the path of God will become exceedingly difficult for you. The core essence of all this is that whatever worldly decisions you make in life, you will only keep drifting further away from your true self. You cannot simply remain unattached. You can only stay unattached and truly move toward the divine when you carry a deep sense of renunciation within your heart. This is the exact spirit of renunciation that Buddha, Mahavira, Yogananda, and Vivekananda possessed, in whatever form they embraced it. If that feeling of renunciation is missing, then sorrows will inevitably keep coming, one after another. As long as you are entangled in the material world, you will face sorrow regarding your family, sorrow regarding your children, and your own personal grief. This entire cycle will endlessly continue. Ultimately, even if you desire to turn toward God, a spiritual journey that could have been completed in 6 to 12 years will end up taking you many years, or even multiple lifetimes. This happens because one action leads to another, and then a third, creating a continuous, unbreakable chain of karmas. Until you reach the spiritual state of actionlessness, true liberation is simply not possible. Therefore, there are only two paths in life. If you choose path of suffering, you will achieve union with the divine in a very short amount of time. If you must walk on the path of worldly sadness, do so with immense observation and profound wisdom, ensuring that your sorrows do not endlessly expand. If a sorrow enters your life and you try to row your boat with just one oar, the boat will only keep spinning in circles. You need the second oar of inner wisdom and awareness to actually move the boat forward on your spiritual journey. Make an effort to exercise your own inner wisdom right at the first step. Walk according to the guidance of the Guru. There is no need to keep a pet cat. And if you truly wish to meet the divine and attain God, there is no need to entangle yourself in the material world like that young man did. Ultimately, neither the young man nor the spiritual seeker achieved what they truly desired. They simply got trapped in the illusion of the world. Therefore, whatever you seek in life, maintain complete determination toward it. Cultivate the willingness to endure chosen suffering. Endure these hardships as if they are a shower of flowers and the true grace of the divine, so that you may ultimately reach Him. If you are unable to do this, then it will inevitably take many lifetimes to attain God. So, the decision is yours, and the mindset must be yours. You must decide whether you want temporary worldly comforts or the path of chosen suffering. If you take the path of suffering, it will last only for a short time, and it will lead you straight to union with the divine. If you take the path of worldly sadness, it is like being tossed around in an endless ocean. You will just keep sinking and struggling. When you will finally find the anchor of the divine will depend entirely on your future lifetimes and destiny. Therefore, whatever you truly desire, and whatever resolve you wish to live by, try to walk that very path. Move forward with deep inner wisdom, so that you may achieve your ultimate union with the divine. This is all I would like to share regarding suffering and sadness. Thank you.